What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Marketing Nomad Show. It's your favorite marketer and podcast host. My name is Prit. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Kevin Kepple. Now, Kevin Kepple is a transformational business coach who has built his own successful business through dynamic leadership. He leads a powerful and cohesive team and has learned many of these lessons the hard way. He lives in Texas with his amazing family. When he's not with his family, he's usually riding his bike or spending time in nature with Frank, his dog. The rest of the time, Kevin loves to help business owners, executives step into their hero's footprint so they can transform their businesses and lives into their version of amazing. So today we're going to be talking to Kevin Kepple about how to convert chaos into freedom so you can maximize your happiness, impact, and income. Kevin, how are we doing today?
I'm terrific. Thanks. What's up, Prit? What's up, everybody?
It's going great. It's Friday when we're recording this podcast, and it's just starting to unwind for the weekend.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I think you did a great job breaking it down. But yeah, I'm a business owner and business coach and leadership educator, and I get to work with usually successful leaders that are feeling a little overstressed, maybe disconnected, help them kind of align with their heart so they can really maximize their happiness and start, creating the impact they want to create in the way they want to do it. And, whether you're a leader of, just you or you're a leader of, 10,000, really, there's some common things you can do to really heighten your joy and heighten the probabilities of success. And, without, happiness, what's the point in all this anyway? So it's a great place to start.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I mean, I started this journey because I think I was in search of happiness. So I think you really hit a valid point that all of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, I think we need to find happiness along this journey. And I really like that your entire focus is about how we can maximize our happiness. I wanted to just ask you, in the last couple of years, there have been some shifts in the entrepreneurial world. What do you think is the biggest shift in the entrepreneurial world over the last couple of years?
I think some of the really cool things that came out of the chaos, so to speak, is that a lot of people made the decision to bet on themselves and really go out and start their own business or transition to something they kind of always wanted to do but haven't yet given themselves permission to do. And we are all so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. We come from an infinite intelligence, and infinite, by definition, can't be defined, number one, and it definitely doesn't have an end or a beginning. And so, we're unlimited by nature, and really the only limits we have are those that we place on ourselves. And, it's so phenomenal when you see massive amounts of people making new decisions about the way they see themselves, about the way they see the world, because, the life we have now is simply a conglomeration of the decisions we've made. And, it's really beautiful as a coach to get to be a part of people's journey when they, go so far past the previous limits they've set for themselves. And, that's what, you do with the people that you work with. You help change the way they think about, the limits that they have. And that's a really, really cool gift to offer people, because I've had really phenomenal coaches do it for me. And, I still get coached where I'm in a part of a mastermind because I love to be around other professionals that are charging towards common goals and really looking to make a positive impact in the world and help a lot of the people along the way. And so it's just I think that's a really cool byproduct of this shift.
I think that's that's very keen insight, because yes, I have seen an increase on people betting on themselves, taking on this entrepreneurial journey, even though it's pretty hard, and especially in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it sounds crazy, but there's definitely been an uptick in people heading over to the entrepreneurial world. And I wanted to ask you, some of them, at least most of my listeners, they are solopreneurs. How can they embody leadership for their business? Because when you say leader, it usually means one person and then they have other people that they are leading. But when you're a team of one, what does leadership mean?
Sure. That's a great question. And whenever I was younger, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, I don't have a team. I'm not a leader. And, that couldn't be farther from the truth, because we're all leaders. Somebody is watching all of us, whether it's, a friend, a brother, sister, wife, parents, whatever, just the community in general. Now people are watching you for how to show up, especially as a business owner. And if you can't lead yourself, how in the world are you going to lead other people? Because you can't give what you don't have. And so I think it's really crucial that you understand there's a pretty simple influence equation. And John Maxwell is one of the most probably well written, at least leadership experts out there. He's written like 80 something books by now, and probably he's working on 81, or, as we speak. And I love
Yeah.
the simplicity that he has, because if you can explain something really simply, it means you understand it pretty well. And he said influence is leadership, and or leadership is influence, either way. And so the influence equation, if you will, is kind of something that I like to really think about and help people understand, because it's so simple, but it's doesn't mean it's always easy. And it's really three things: it's trust, connection, and vision. But so many leaders, and again, myself included, when I was a young leader, we start out at the back end of the equation, and we just start telling people what to do, like, based on this vision that we have, if we even have a vision. Sometimes there's not even a vision, but, like, hey, do this. And telling people what to do is not leadership. That's management, right? Empowering and inspiring people, that's leadership. And people aren't going to co-create the vision that you have if you're just telling them what to do. They might for a little while, but they're not connected to it. So they're definitely not going to make the impact they could potentially make. And so the really powerful, way to lead is, and even again, if it's just leading yourself, like, you have to do this with yourself first. Like, you've got to build trust. You've got to learn to trust yourself. And when you do that, it comes, one of the easy ways to build trust is through authenticity, showing up the way you say you're going to show up, for yourself, for other people. And that's a really powerful way to build trust, because then people feel safe, because they know what they're going to get from you. And then if they feel safe enough to be vulnerable. And if they feel vulnerable, that's the only time people go into the unknown. And unless people are going to the unknown, they're not creating. And if you're not creating, you're simply compulsively reacting to what's in front of you, and you're going to recycle the past again and again. And you might get a little bit better results, but you're not going to get any of those good quantum leaps down the road to where you're just, moving towards, whatever your version of amazing is at a pretty rapid speed. But once you build trust, it's beautiful, because that leads to connection. And, when I'm truly connected to myself or connected to the people around me, like, that's whenever people are going to happily co-create the vision you throw out there. And when you have, people co-creating a vision, or even if it's just co-creating your own vision, that's where you get co-elevation. Because, and any team, the only way the team grows is if you grow as individuals and you grow together as a team. And even if the team is one, you need to grow, yourself individually, and then you need to grow your business, the unit, the machine of your business at the same time. Those are two different things. And, the really cool part of that is, as you elevate yourself, no one's ever going to beat you in the world at being you. You have the market cornered on that. And, you've got to, again, give yourself permission to be you, and, be really unafraid to just charge forward into the unknown. Because you know what, like, there's no rules. All the rules are made up by us. So, why wouldn't you just go out and do it your way, and only the way you can? And because you're a unique, multidimensional being, no one's ever done it this way. And so it's going to be messy. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. You're going to get knocked down. But the only time you fail is if you get knocked down and you stay down. As long as you get up one more time, then you go down, like, you cannot fail.
Oh, there's so many things that you just said. And I've been noting it down, and I'm sure that my listeners are noting it down as well. But yes, absolutely. Trust, connection, vision. I really liked how you said that a leader co-creates with other people. I really wanted to talk a little bit more about that. First off, what do we mean when we say co-create? And what are some of the actionable steps that my audience can take to co-create, either with their followers, because like you said, there are people watching them. It's not necessarily their their employers that we're talking about. We're talking about people who are looking up to them as business owners as well. So how can they co-create, maybe with their followers, with their subscribers on social media platforms?
Yeah, well, it's really about inspiration, because in order to be inspiring, you need to be inspired yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. And so, like, what do you want and why do you want it? I think are two of the best questions you can ever ask yourself. It's like, what do I want? Because if I don't know what I want, how in the world would I know if I got it? Or if I don't know what I want, how do I know what action to take to go get it? But it's really beautiful, when you really get clear on what you want, the way you do that is like, you find the passion. Like, what am I passionate about creating right now? And that's great. But passion can be fairly selfish sometimes too. And so the why is really important, right? That's your purpose, right? And so the way you can get to that purpose is, okay, this thing I'm passionate about creating and birthing into the world, how can I mix generosity into that? and that's your why, right? And it's really cool because, what do you want? Why do you want it? Like, and everything flows from that decision. But ask yourself this right now, like, what do you want? And if you can't explain it simply, again, like we talked about earlier, then you don't understand. And that's not, you're a bad person. It's just, you need to do a little bit of work there, because, hazy ideas of what you want leads to hazy results. And, for the longest time, like, I had no idea what I wanted. Like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know, like for dinner, like, what do you mean? What do I want? And, that's not very inspiring if, the leader is not even really sure where they're going. And I've got this bad habit of reading stories on the internet, right? But the good news is they're all true. Everything you read on the internet, that's the rules, right? That's a joke, you guys. Of
Yes.
course, everybody knows that. But I was reading about a study where they had people in the woods and they had people in the desert, and they didn't know where they were at. They didn't have any landmarks they could follow, or a compass or a map. And they set off this group of people, like point A, and like go to point B. And every time, whether it was a desert or the woods, people just walked around in circles without clear direction because they didn't know where to go. And then they went back to where they started. Even though that's not where they wanted to be, they reverted to what's familiar. And so to get people to co-create with you, you need to like have an inspiring vision that you can work towards together, that has clear benchmarks along the way that tell you we're going the right way, or we're going, possibly the wrong way. And, the way that you can do that more powerfully is like, it's so important that you include reflection in everything you're doing. Because when you stop and reflect, even if it's brief, when you reflect on your experience, that's really the only time you're going to get experience from the experience. Because when you're in any experience, you need to be in the moment. Because if you're, thinking about what's already happened, generally stuck in the past is going to obviously take you out of the present moment, but kind of guilt and depression are the big rewards for staying stuck in the past. And then if you're stuck in the future, like anxiety is your friend. And man, like when you're anxious, you're definitely not going to be able to create from your place of power, because you're in this place of fear, and it's going to cause like compulsive reactions and like more forceful behavior. And I don't know about you, Prit, but I do not like being forced to do things, right? Like,
Same here.
yeah. And autonomy is like one of the biggest fundamental desires
Yes.
we all have, the desire to create our life our own way. And that is so crucial that, we let the people around us, have autonomy. And Steve Jobs is, created this phenomenal company with Apple, right? And, thankfully he did, like, because I would never get anywhere without my phone, right? Map, music, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much great stuff in there. But, I had this great quote. He said, we don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And,
Absolutely.
that's how you empower people behind you. It's not like, hey, do this, do that, and solving all their problems for them. Because if you're solving all the problems for your people, then you have to solve all the problems for your people all the time. But, it's really powerful leadership when you inspire people to solve their own problems, so that even when you're not around, they're still creating. And, you're creating in your way. And it's really beautiful, because when you have two people, Prit and I together are much more powerful than two people, because of the synergy we're going to develop. We both have ideas, we both have brilliance, and it's going to combine together. And when the sum is greater than the total of its parts, that's synergy. And that's the power of, a group of two, or a group of 2 million.
Absolutely. I think you really absolutely nailed it. And especially about the fact about autonomy, I think that as entrepreneurs, there is that inherent desire in us to be autonomous. I think it's just ingrained in us from the very beginning. It's why we even chose this path in the first place. And I absolutely love the fact that you said that you have to be inspired yourself if you really want to, get people to follow your vision as well. And your vision needs to be some sort of a higher purpose. Why do you do what you want? What do you want, and why do you want it? I absolutely loved that you said that. And one more thing that I really want to focus upon right now, because it's a brand new concept on my podcast, and I personally have not talked about it. So I really wanted to hear your thoughts on it. And that was when you said, reflect on your experience. And I think you absolutely nailed it, because when we are going through the experience, we don't think too much about it. I mean, it's only after that we have to give ourselves the time to think about what exactly happened. And I really wanted to ask you, how is it that you go about reflecting on your experience? What are the questions that you ask yourself? And is there something that you actively do? Maybe set a time aside just to reflect on your experience. How do you go about that?
Sure. That's a really great question, because, for the longest time, I simply didn't do it. Right? Like, yeah, it was great, and then moved on. Right. But,
Yeah.
but I think Leonardo da Vinci said it best: simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so simple is always the goal. And again, like when you can explain things simply, then that means you really understand it. And that's really good, because complexity, it leads to confusion. Confusion leads to inaction, right? A confused mind doesn't do anything. It sticks to what it knows. And so in reflection, keep it super simple. It's like, okay, based on what just happened, and there's different ways for different things. Like, I have a different routine for working out for business, but it's all kind of the same, right? Towards the end of the week, I look back on the week, I look at everything, like, hey, based on this, event right here, what went well? What do I need to keep doing and evolve to the next level? And then based on this event right here, what do I need to stop doing? Because perfection is attainable. There's no more we can take away, not no more that we can add. And then, maybe what do I need to potentially start doing? And it's really important that you do this from a place of love and grace. And you really need to be intentional about being kind as opposed to right when you're doing this. Because, we can always be right and have that sort of truth that we wield and, chop ourselves off at the knees with it or other people. And, if you're going to wield that sort of truth, just use it to point, right? And point to the truth that you do want. Again, nobody's perfect. And if you're doing big things, and anything creative is a big thing because, it's fairly risky to go out and create. And, you're striving for uniqueness, but that's where you're going to find all of your joy. That's where you're going to find your highest levels of performance. And the natural byproduct from that is going to be, more money, more, freedom in your life, better relationships. And then, your health's going to be better because just like all of that stuff works so well together. And, the way that you kind of add jet fuel to that is through reflection, because you stop wasting tremendous amounts of time. And, but you know what? Like, it's so simple that's why people ignore it and don't do it. Like, no, I need something way more complicated. I need to get like a scientific calculator out here. I need an Excel spreadsheet. I need to get some pie charts going. It's like, no, man, keep it really simple.
I think that's amazing. And I really I want to stress upon one fact that you just said. And you said the byproduct of it is money and, whatever, the success and all of that. And I really liked that you said byproduct, because the actual product is you achieving your higher purpose. But all the other success, the money, all of those things, they are supposed to be byproducts. And this is definitely something that really resonates with me, because I personally think that the money, the success, the fame, all of those, if it is your main focus, then you're probably not going to be very successful in this journey. But if it is not your main aim, whereas finding your higher purpose is the main aim, and all of this, it will come. It will eventually come. And I love that you said byproduct. It's such an important word. I mean, I know that you just said it as part of a sentence, but that's such an important word that I really want to stress on, because it means that you are so focused on your higher purpose that, all of these, yeah, okay, they will come. I'm completely okay with that. But first, I've got to finish my higher purpose. And I absolutely love that. And I also, like the fact that you added a little bit of mindset, and that is how to be kind to yourself while you're reflecting on your experience. I think that's so important, because there have been so many decisions that I've made. And then, I look at myself and I'm like, oh my God, how did I do this? Like, why was I being so stupid? And then I have to remind myself, oh, no, I can't talk to myself like that. I've got to be kind. I've got to be, loving towards myself, and just take the experience as the experience. So I absolutely love that. And for me personally, just as a side note, I want to tell you guys that I journal. I have a business journal. That's how I personally reflect on my experience as well. But of course, you can take, Kevin's way, my way. There are so many different ways that you can go about this. Find a way that works for you. And as Kevin said, simplicity is just the best way to go. So Kevin, I also wanted to ask you, what are maybe some of the common mistakes that you see your clients making when it comes to leadership and, having this trust, connection, vision in their business?
Sure, that's a great question. And, these mistakes are generally come from personal experience. But, I touched on it really quickly earlier. So many people get thrown into this young leadership position, at whatever age, but maybe don't have a lot of leadership experience. And then maybe the model or the example of leadership we have isn't the best. And, for me, that was the case. The first leadership position I had, my vice president, who was my boss at the time, was really volatile and abusive, like verbally and borderline physically. And it was just like scream at people, and through terror and fear, that's how he reigned. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel like that's the right way. But that was like, and I had great coaches and teachers and other mentors, but this was my first business leader. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so instead of getting like really upset and sideways and be like, what's wrong with them? Because you know what? Hurt people. Like, he was struggling with something, obviously. And so I just really learn to be grateful for the contrast. Okay, this is not how I want to lead. I know that's not the way. And gratitude's so important because it trains your brain and your body to look for what's right. And there's so many like biological benefits to gratitude, but it's really crucial that you keep yourself in that positive space, because when I'm grateful, I'm in that place of love. And if I'm angry or whatever, then that's fear based. And the right destination is never going to be achieved if I start with the improper information, right? There's that law of sensitive dependence on initial conditions inside of chaos theory that says, hey, if I start with a map that takes me to New York, but I'm trying to drive to California, like I'm never going to get where I need to go. But a simple tweak in my approach, simply starting with the right map, is going to get me the right place. And so anytime I start from love, right? And that's not like woo-woo love. It's just like, it's either love or fear. Every single action you've ever taken, it was motivated by one of those two things. Even if fear wore the hat of pride, anger, guilt, shame, apathy, remorse, whatever, like all those are fear-based, right? And all those are going to create forceful behavior. They're simply compulsive reactions. But when you start from love, it doesn't mean that you're going to be sliding down rainbows on the way to work at the Unicorn Ranch every day, but things are going to work out a lot better because, you're pointed from the truth. And so I think it's really crucial that, for one, you have grace for yourself as a leader, and then you have grace for the people around you. And again, it's not about being right. It's about being kind. And it's about treating people the way that you want to be treated. That's the golden rule, and having respect for people. And the best thing you can do as a leader is really two things: is inspire and empower people. Because if you inspire, you're stimulating people to action. If you empower, you give them the knowledge of what to do with that stimulation. And that's really cool, because basically a lot of the time as a really good leader or coach, you're just helping people see where they're wasting their energy or blocking their energy or not using it, and helping them redirect it to a more powerful place. And I think that it's really about the transformational leadership, and that's your goal. As a coach and a leader, there's really three levels. The first level is like, say somebody on your team or somebody you're coaching or whatever the case may be is not great with the people that they're around. Level one is like, hey, you need to be a better listener, because all you do is talk, right? And it's like, here's a tactic. We're gonna like keep your mouth closed, right? That's a tactic, or whatever the case may be. And so level two is like, hey, we're gonna be better at relationships in general. Like, we're gonna give you some strategies, like ask people about them, and listen and just be kind as opposed to right or whatever. And then level three is like transformational, right? Like, you're giving people a paradigm shift and helping them change the way they fundamentally see the world. And you help them see kind of the truth of life. And that's a real gift as a leader, when you can give that to people. And you do that not by telling them again, but by asking them questions like, hey, like, what do you want? And why do you want it? Well, I want to, move into a leadership role myself. Maybe somebody says, okay, cool. What type of leader do you like to follow? And they say these things like, okay, so, are you doing those things? Like, how could you be better at those things? And just helping them understand, like, whenever your actions are out of alignment with your dreams and desires, as that's what really good leaders or coaches do for you, is help you bring in alignment, like between what you're desiring and what you're doing.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that you said, just being a better listener, having strategies in place, and creating that paradigm shift in people, letting them, at least taking the time to understand, where do they see themselves, how to get them there. I think that's one of the most important things. And I think that's so, I guess, lost in the whole leadership world. I think that I guess I want to put this in a much nicer way, in a very polite way, but I think there is a sense of competitiveness, and that kind of shuns people from listening to other people and trying to figure out where they want to get to. How do you overcome that competitiveness, that maybe someone's going to be vying for your job if you're in a leadership position? How do you overcome that feeling?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, competition is dangerous. And, for me, from like pretty much since I was born, I was super competitive. And until I was 30, it was all about me winning. And if I didn't think I could win, I wouldn't even like try. Right. I'm like, I've got to be number one. If I had to step on your
Yeah.
throat, cool. Just get out of my way. Right. But you can win too, just not as big as me. And what? Like, that's not why we were given these gifts. Competition, it also strives for like sameness, like I was always competing with other people and I was trying to like win their way. And that's hard because what? Sometimes I don't even want to win their way. Like my brother is awesome, man. He's one of my heroes, my best friend, but like he loves to fish, right? I think I just fell asleep while I was saying the word fishing. It's just not for me, like, and And I would try
Yeah.
to be like the best fisherman because like I'm competing with him, and I find myself fishing and I don't even want to be fishing, or whatever, even in the professional world. And so it's really about creativity because that strives for uniqueness. And that's why it's so crucial that you figure out what it is you do want, because that's going to point you towards the creative parts of you. Okay, like how can I create this thing I'm passionate about, with the gifts and the talents that I have? And you know what? Talent's not rare. Like I see people all the time that are super talented. What's rare is people who develop their talents into strengths that they can use on demand. And that's one of the big things we really help people do is like, hey, here's what it looks like when you're absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree with your superpowers. And here's what it looks like when you give all that power away. And, it's a really, really cool eye-opening thing when you help people see that, because who in the world would want to give all their power away? But, every time, we're being right as opposed to being kind, we're giving our power away. Every time we're, negative and nasty with ourselves, right? Like, oh, you're an idiot, cancel clear. No, nobody's an idiot. Like we're all beautiful expressions of love. And, we also have the power to create this illusion that we're not.
I love how you changed the definition of giving power away, because I think that the common misconception is if you give people advice, then you're giving your power away. If you help people, then you're sort of giving your power away. But I really love the fact that you said being nasty, being unkind. That's actually the true meaning of giving your power away. That was phenomenal for me. And I also like the fact that you mentioned you did not even want to win it that way. And I actually laughed because when I started this journey, I mean, especially in the entrepreneurial world, Kevin, it's just so competitive. And it's hard not to get sucked into that competitiveness that people have. And when I first started out, I had a vision for myself. And then slowly I found myself competing for things that I didn't even want for myself. And, I mean, I don't want the 8, 9 figures thing. I have a very specific vision for my life and how I want to lead it. And I found myself getting sucked into other people's vision. And I had to keep reminding myself that no, this is I'm going to lead it the way I want to, lead how I want to take it. And that's such an important point that you mentioned. You probably don't even want to go their way. So, you have to pause and kind of take away that competitiveness and see, hey, do I really want this? Or, what is it that I really want? And I absolutely liked, I think earlier on this episode, you did say that no one can be you, no one can be better than being you. And I think that also works into this conversation right now, where even if you do help people and you are a great leader, no one's going to be better at being you than you. So that's also one more way to remove that competitiveness, I guess. And I guess that also brings us close to the end of this episode. Kevin, if you have 3 tips for my audience, 3 actionable steps that they can take right now, right after listening to this episode, what would it be?
Yeah, sit down and ask yourself, what do I want and why? And do not add the third question, which I did not mention, which is how. That's where people get tripped up every time. This is what I want. This is why I want it. But how? How? Well, if you knew how, you would have already done it.
That's true.
Like the how is the mind trying to figure it out. And the mind is limited. The mind has a beginning and an end. Your mind is simply a fraction of your being. You want to access the infinite part of you. And, Prit is brilliant. She journals and writes. And you don't need to be a prolific writer. Just sit down with a pen and write. Just write. Just let the words flow. And you know what? Like the water's not going to run until you turn the faucet on. And you know what? Like create the chaos and then create the way forward. Because you know what? If you keep going, the blizzard will clear and you're going to be in a really cool place. But it's so crucial. Sit down, get clear on what you want and why you want it, and understand this. Everything looks messy in the middle. Every single thing looks like a failure in the middle. Like if you stopped halfway through getting dressed and went about your day in the world, it would probably be pretty funny, the results, the looks you would get, but you look kind of like a failure at getting dressed, right? Like, why are you wearing one sock and like some shorts and that's it? Like, just quit in the middle, And then the third tip, you know what? Like just choose love over fear as a matter of habit. And that is one of the best skills you can ever develop. And if you feel any kind of like sideways, like ask yourself, cool, where do I need to choose love over fear? And embrace the chaos, because chaos is needed for any complex system, and human beings are complex multidimensional beings. And chaos is simply there to alert us that maybe it's time for a change. And that's okay. Without stress and tension, there is no change. And so I would not be afraid of the chaos. I would not be afraid of the unknown. The only thing that I would be terrified of is waking up a year from now, 5 years from now, and being the same person that you are today. Like that's it. So I love you guys. Thanks for a great show. Prit, you're awesome. And
Thank
yeah.
you. Well, those were fantastic points. One is sit down, reflect, take the time to reflect. What do you want? Why do you want it? Everything looks messy in the middle. Choose love over fear. Don't be afraid of chaos. That was amazing, Kevin. If people want to find you, how do they find you?
You can go to kevinkepple.us or Kevin Kepple on Instagram or Unlock Your Freedom podcast with me.
Well, thank you so much for helping on this podcast with us. We have learned so much from you, Kevin. I hope you guys are doing super, super awesome, staying safe, staying healthy. I will catch you guys in my next episode. Bye, guys.